Hello, everyone. I am Randy Bocook. I am here with potential city councilman running for the position, John Ring. John, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why you should hold that seat of city councilman.
My name is John Ring, and I am running for the city council seat. And I appreciate Randy for taking the time to do this and reaching out to the members of our community. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I've lived in Georgia for 10 years. Bryan County for 7 and Richmond Hill for 5. I'm married to Lisa Ring, and we have 4 children, Greer, Tally, Trey, and Wyatt. 2 of my children graduated at Richmond Hill High School, and my youngest, Wyatt, attends Richmond Hill Middle School, and he's actively playing lacrosse right now. About myself, I'm a former corrections officer in Pennsylvania, a former youth football coach, and I did nuclear security at Plant Vogel, and I have a really strong law enforcement background. I currently serve in the Georgia Army National Guard as an infantryman, and I'm involved in a lot of local community organizations. I am the press and publicity director for the NAACP for Bryan County. I'm also a member of the NAACP in Bryan County, and I also sit on the Richmond Hill Martin Luther King parade committee, which I was very excited that, we had our first Martin Luther King Day parade in Richmond Hill. So there was a lot of people motivated by that to kind of get involved. So that really meant a lot to what we do. And I also am a mentor at the Richmond Hill Middle School for the Step Up program. So I like to give back to the community. My wife, our family, we always give back to the community. My wife was the president of the JROTC Booster Club for a year. Our son did 4 years in the JROTC program at Richmond Hill High School. He's now active duty Army and just came back from his first deployment in Iraq.
The seat was vacated by Johnny Murphy in December with his untimely or early passing. He was such a lion in the area for loving Richmond Hill. He mentored a lot of people. He loved Richmond Hill. It was a part of his focus. That's all he talked about was Richmond Hill and making Richmond Hill better. He was a developer and a builder. Tell me what you can add to that seat if you filled that seat, and what would you do to extend the legacy of Richmond Hill?
Well, I have met Mr. Murphy on multiple occasions, and he was always greeting everybody with a smile, a handshake. His legacy, in Richmond Hill of just being out in the community is tough for anybody to beat, and especially for the tenure that he has done that. My purpose, and my drive is to be that person in the community, and if elected, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I want to listen, and he always listened. Mr. Murphy, you shake his hand, even if he was walking to his car, he would stop. He would take 10, 15, 20 minutes or however long, he needed, to show you, that he cared, because he genuinely did.
He did. Last year, the city annexed a large tract of land in the county. A little bit of controversy about that, in the sense of some people were surprised by that. What's your thoughts on the annexation, and where do you think, how do you think that will help us or hurt us in the future?
Well, the annexation, for me, the biggest surprise was that we were very disconnected in communicating with the county. It was almost a surprise to the county. And that's a problem. We already have, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but we already have a big problem between the county and the city that needs to be repaired. With the growth that we're facing, with Bryan County being the largest growing county in the country, and Richmond Hill right up there with it, we have to work together. And the annexation, I'm for growth. I'm for responsible growth. But if we're not going to communicate with our own county and, sit in the room and have the discussions, have the conversations, talk about where we're going, what we're doing with it, that's a problem.
You bring up, you brought up an issue that's pretty important, that there's a push out there to combine fire services with the county and the city. I know some of the local city fire departments, or firefighters, are against the move. Their rating's higher than the county, from what I understand. And from what I understand, it will bring down the rating of the department a little bit on a insurance ratings level. And the other thing too is the city of Richmond Hill Fire Department and the county have strong identities of helping the community. What's your thoughts on combining those services? And do you think it'd be a good move for us to do that?
Well, I know the discussion, that's all it is right now. It really hasn't, the details, nothing has been put together. So right now it's kind of hard to say, without looking at the specifics and how it'll impact the city, if it's a good idea or not. I have heard a little bit of discussion with local city firefighters that it's not something they support because, obviously with the ratings and just their overall concerns with, now we're going to be growing and expanding, how is this going to impact us in the long run and in our pockets, So without having the specific details in front of me, without knowing exactly what's going to change, I can't really give a yes or no on that. Okay. But I will say that I will do what's best for our residents and the workers.
One of the things that I have to say, Jan Bass, council person, Tara Broniak, council person, Mayor Russ Carpenter, just to name the three off the top of my head, are very involved in community events around town. You see them at the Seafood Festival. Mayor Carpenter was at the front of the Dr. Martin Luther King Day parade, arm in arm with city leaders on that event. He helped spearhead that parade for the city of Richmond Hill. I think it was a beautiful parade. I loved it. It was much needed in Richmond Hill. They were very involved. Tara is a perfect example of being at the city, the senior citizen last week playing bingo with the residents there. Would you be as involved as a member of council if you were elected to that seat?
Yes, absolutely. And I know I mentioned my wife earlier, Lisa Ring. She was a congressional candidate here in Georgia's 1st District, Democrat. And we attended over 400 community events in, probably about 18 to 20 months. Community events is how you reach out to the people. It's how people see you. It's how people interact with you. Community members and residents should never have to look for you as an elected official. You should be there. Mm-hmm. So I've done that. I've been out in the community events. I'm involved here locally, and you're right. I've seen Tara, I've seen Jan, I've seen Mayor Carpenter at city events, county events. Just being out in the community, and that's important. It really is. It really shows the community that it tells us, hey, we have a council, we have a mayor. Here they are. So yeah, absolutely, I would be out there, everything I could be.
The troops that you mentioned, you were an infantryman. You can appreciate this. The troops that are on the front line, the grunts are the city employees, from the person who cuts the grass to the city manager, county commissioners, the city planners, the planning and zoning, the city hall employees. They actually are on the day-to-day operations of running the city, and they know the front lines of what's going on. Have you reached out to any of those members to talk to them about some of their needs and stuff that their concerns for the city? And in that position, what can you do to make their lives, their job, our city better?
Well, many people don't know this, but about when Mayor Carpenter ran for mayor, I was actually going to run against him. And I didn't do so, for personal reasons at that point in time. I was dealing with injury. But at that point in time, I really gotten concerned and involved with, what was going on locally. I'm former law enforcement. I was a corrections officer. I worked a nuclear security officer at Plant Vogel. And obviously I'm an infantryman, first responder. I'm combat certified lifesaver. So the jobs that the city workers do, you're right, they are on the front lines. And the people in the front lines too often get ignored. Mm-hmm. What they think doesn't matter, and that reflects in their day-to-day activities. As a city council person, it is my job to make sure that they are being heard. So over the last year and a half, when I've spoken to a police officer, when I've seen a firefighter, when I've been in the park, I've spoken to people and said, hey, look, how do you like your job? Do you like it? And most of the time the responses are good. People like their job, they enjoy it. And, so it is very important. They want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they want to feel as they have a voice. And if there's something bothering them or there's a discrepancy, there's got to be somebody there to listen, and I absolutely want to be that person.
Where do you see Richmond Hill going, and what would you like to see changed or implemented for Richmond Hill in the future?
Well, one of the things I already talked about is the communication between the county and the city. That is the biggest thing right now. We are working against each other, and that never plays out well in the long run. Another thing, I've been knocking on doors here in Richmond Hill. I've been talking to residents. I'm a Piercefield resident. I live in one of the older communities, and our older communities oftentimes are neglected. We have no sidewalks, and we have now the Richmond Hill Police Department, the mayor, have focused on it, but we had a lot of speeding, high traffic in there. And, they've been really focusing on that. So it's been helping our community because our kids, they walk on the streets. Traffic safety is a big issue here in Richmond Hill. We have two very key locations right now where I know we could use an arrow. Harris Trail and 17 being one of them. It's very dangerous, especially with that cross traffic coming from Food Line. Another thing that I've been hearing people say is they're concerned with recycling. We now actually my son just told me the other day, we had a little note on the side of the recycling bin: no pizza boxes, no glass, and obviously you didn't have any glass in there, but before, we were recycling everything that was legitimately recycling. Now we're kind of restricted, and are we paying less? So these are some of the concerns people have had. Growth obviously is a huge concern to people. When it comes to the impact fees,
Yes,
that the county is implementing, I think it's a good thing. I think it takes the burden off of the residents that have lived here for a long time of meeting that demand of growth with infrastructure, because that's another issue we have. Infrastructure is something we always have to maintain and keep up with, and we need a way to get the funds to meet that.
John, I'd like to thank you very much for coming out today and doing this and letting us meet who you are and what you stand for. Your resume is incredible. Thank you for being part of this, and good luck to you on the election on March 19th in Richmond Hill. We're going to have a special election. Get out and vote. John Ring here, and thank you very much, and thank you for listening. Hi, everyone. Randy Bocook here. I want to thank all of you for watching these interviews. I want to thank the candidates for coming out and giving us their time to tell who they are and what they're about. We have a special city here in Richmond Hill, and we can't really take it for granted, and we have to be careful on the persons or the people we put in charge of the city. We want to make sure that they're the best fit for our city. I hope these interviews will help you make a decision on who you think should hold that open seat for city council. Thank you for letting us come into your house, watch these interviews for the candidates, get out and vote on the 19th of March, and let's make sure that Richmond Hill is the great city that we have right now and will continue to be. Thank you.